This meeting is being recorded.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World Weekly Lecture. I'm back again as your host. I'm Becky, and I am so excited this week to be talking with Josh and Kalie from Expats Everywhere. I've been a personal subscriber to their YouTube channel for over a year, and they talk about how their travel adventures being expats around the world. And today we're going to talk with them about how to start your own YouTube channel. So welcome, Josh and Kalie.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys. Well, first of all, can you first tell us a little bit about yourselves and your background?
Yep, Kalie, go ahead.
Okay, so just briefly, I grew up in Florida in the US, and my family traveled a lot internationally and nationally. I think mainly for my dad's job, and then we just all like to travel, so we did a lot of vacations abroad, which I think is what got me really wanting to live this expat life that we live. So as soon as I finished college, Josh and I had met my senior year. He was already talking about going abroad, and I was like, perfect, wait for me. He wanted to go in the middle of my senior year. I said, wait for me to finish and I'll go with you. We were just dating at the time, just started dating, and we just, took that leap, and our first place was in Spain.
Yep. I'm a small town kid from the border of Virginia and Tennessee. Didn't have a lot of travel opportunities when I was younger, but in college, took my first real trip abroad and realized that I didn't get as homesick as people told me I would. And I realized that I had the travel bug and didn't want to stop.
Amazing. And now you, as you told us on the website just before a few days ago, you also have a daughter and a dog now that you are living with in Porto, Portugal.
Yeah, that's right. So in Spain, we didn't have the dog, but we picked him up in South Korea. So he's bounced around with us for a few countries. And then our daughter was born a little over 2.5 years ago back in the States during COVID, that awkward time period. And then we moved her over here when she was about 9 months to Porto, Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And how is living in Portugal? How are you finding it?
Oh, we love it.
Love it.
When we lived in Spain, we visited Porto actually several times, which was unique for us because normally we don't circle back to places, especially when you're in Europe. There are so many places to go to. And living in Madrid, we just found that there were a lot of smaller places in Spain that we wanted to visit. So when we went to Porto the first time, we really loved it. And it was actually a place that we went back to a couple times. And we said, one day we want to live here. And so it just worked out with jobs, with Expats Everywhere, being able to do some remote stuff. So we're like, okay, now is the time to live in Porto. And, for those of you that watch our channel, we talk about it a lot. We love Porto. There are other parts of Portugal that are really great, but there's a lot of reasons why we prefer Porto over anywhere else in Portugal. And one of the main things I would say is that people are so friendly here.
Mm-hmm. What she said.
Well, what made you guys decide to start a YouTube channel in the first place?
Yeah, great question. It kind of came secondary to something that we saw when we were living in Saudi Arabia. We had moved to Saudi Arabia, and within about 6 months of being there, we realized that we weren't going to extend our contract there. We were going to be 1 year and done. And we were having to start that whole process of moving again. So at this point, Saudi was our third country, and we kind of knew the questions that we needed to ask ourselves and knew what we needed to do for the immigration process in a variety of countries. And it was really daunting to make the move to Singapore. So Singapore was country number 4 for us. And I was like, man, I would pay somebody to do this. I would pay somebody to aggregate all of this information and just hand it over to me. And then I thought, well, if I would pay somebody, maybe someone would pay me. And that's where the concept or the idea of Expats Everywhere came out of. And the YouTube channel was more or less at the time just like a marketing funnel. We thought, you know what, if we start interviewing people about their living abroad experiences, we can have some sort of exposure online. And from people watching YouTube videos, they will come to our website and sign up for consultations, and we'll make $1 million and everything's going to be great.
That was the plan, right? $1 million. Yeah, so it was supposed to be consultations at first, or things like helping you fix your CV for, this country looks for this. One of the main one was, some countries, they want a picture on your CV. Some countries don't want a picture. So it was different things like that we had just learned along the way from doing it for a while. So we thought, well, we can help people do this. And like Josh said, it was because we were like, we've done it a lot. We were like, oh, I don't want to do this. But wait, if we would pay someone, then yeah, maybe someone would pay us. So that's really how all that started. But
YouTube's a different beast.
And it was, well, that was secondary, and we had no idea, of course, like, oh yeah, we'll start a YouTube channel. We'll see how it goes. And But then I guess after a couple years of that, we actually preferred the YouTube side of it, that media content creation that we had done. Because initially we just did interviews. We weren't even on the channel. It was just other people, and it was never supposed to be like us on the channel. But obviously, you adapt and things morph, and here we are.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was it like when you were first starting the YouTube channel? Were you getting a lot of followers right at the beginning, or how were you feeling being on camera, all of these things that I'm sure people struggle with?
It was slow.
Okay. So great questions, a lot to unpack there. So the first 3 years of the channel, we didn't appear on screen except for like a handful of times, like less than 5 times were we actually on screen. And it wasn't until we did a consultation, like a YouTube consultation with someone, where we realized that the ones where we were on screen, we did better. Like in terms of the video performance, did better. Early days, we were celebrating when we got 100 views on a video. It was very, very slow, but along the way, we learned why things performed so poorly. And also, like, we just didn't know about sound and lighting and video equipment and editing, all of that stuff. We didn't have any skills, and it was very bad. I mean, people can go back and they can look at some of our early videos.
If you want a good laugh.
If you want a good laugh, they're very,
we
very
left
bad.
them on there for that.
Yeah.
But I would say this too, we also had full-time jobs.
Yes.
So when we did
Good
start
point.
this, it was kind of like, oh, we'll just do this as a hobby, as a secondary thing, and maybe it'll turn into $1 million, like Josh said. But it didn't. It was several years of doing this before we actually went into it full time. So that's another thing that made it hard, is because you have full-time jobs, and then it's a little bit of a hobby, a little bit you're trying to grow it, but it's slow growing because you just can't put as much time and effort into it as you would like.
Yep.
That's where you kind of get the whole like, do I jump into it full time, not making much money so that I could grow, or is that too risky? And that's kind of the question we had in Singapore.
Yeah.
So how often were you putting out videos when you first started and you were still working full time on average?
Well, we got really dedicated at putting out a video a week, but again, that video a week was very simple. The editing was very simple. It didn't take very much time. Now we still try to do a video a week. Every now and then we'll do 2 a week, but the amount of effort and hours that go into that single video is like 10x what it was in the early days.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when we got into it, we didn't realize how much like pre-planning there is to an actual video. And that was something that when Josh went into it full time and did these consultations, we learned that, yeah, there's actually a lot of pre-planning before you even get the cameras out and shoot or anything like that. So, we didn't realize that because we would just, oh yeah, we have an idea. And then that would be really hard in editing.
And you were doing all of your own editing, I'd imagine, at the beginning.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why it was so bad.
Oh, that's not that bad. Simple.
Did you do a lot of tutorials and courses online to improve your editing and the way that you were putting out the videos?
Yeah, during 2019, after we finished up in Singapore and transitioned, well, I don't want to say transitioned back to the US, but we found ourselves back in the US due to some circumstances. I mean, it wasn't yet COVID, but we had planned to be back there because we had spent 10 years without visiting family and friends during Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, like that whole holiday period. And we thought, as we were leaving Singapore, we had finished our 4th year, and we thought, it'd be really nice to just spend that time back in the States. And then after that, we'll apply for the D7 visa in Portugal and then move again. So we thought it was going to be a short couple of months. And
and then I found out I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So it extended it. It was like, okay, well, this is just going to extend it because my due date was in January anyway. So we were already planning on being around for New Year's and leaving right after that. So we thought, okay, well, we'll just do kind of end of January. And then, being pregnant, we pushed it a few more months, which then we're getting into early 2020 where no one was going anywhere.
We know what happened.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I had really started to dig in on learning YouTube better, learning video editing better, and started doing some courses, LinkedInlearning.com or whatever it is, LinkedIn Learning. They've got some great stuff. It used to be called lynda.com, I think, several years back, but I used a lot of their resources and realized pretty quickly, like, hey, I needed to move from iMovie, the basic setup for Apple, into Final Cut Pro. And once I did that, it just opened up this whole new world for me in terms of what I could do and what I could learn. So yeah, I've definitely grown as an editor and a video maker, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so are you still doing the editing for your videos yourself?
About half of them. So we did end up coming across a Portuguese girl who had a very little editing experience, but she has an awesome attitude, and her price was right. So I started working with her, editing in a similar way to the way I edit, and starting to help her develop her tools in her toolbox. And yeah, she's doing a great job for us, editing a video a week for us, while Kalie and I work on kind of the other aspects of the business, as well as some of the videos that are going to go onto a new channel that we're going to start. So yeah, I mean, we're doing about 50% of the videos as is.
And you are now doing this full time, is that right?
Yeah, I am. Kalie's soon going to be.
So one of the things that happened in Singapore is my mom's company, they were looking for someone to help with some remote work. And this is before COVID. So it was like, you could do it from anywhere. And my mom was just mentioning it to me. So I said, oh, like maybe I'll do that. And it opened up the door for us to at least have some sort of steady income while Josh went full time into Expats Everywhere. Because at that point we were so small anyway. And it was one of those like, do I do this or not? So it was like, okay, well, that will at least give us like a little bit of a stable income so that he can put more effort into the company. So I still work for my mom for that, because it's one of those where I just have monthly deadlines and I can do it whenever. And I try to step away a little bit, but I just kind of keep getting roped into different things. Yeah. So I still do that because it's quite easy and I can do it from anywhere.
I will say that I've found that as an expat, you like having steady income is really good if you do something like apply for a mortgage in that country.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
helped a lot. So it's definitely not a bad thing. And I think I would recommend starting with a stable income if you're going to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Absolutely. 100%. Because the likelihood, if you're starting with zero skills, the likelihood of you like going viral and having 100,000 subscribers in a year is very, very low. Like those are anomalies. It is not the norm. I mean, even for us, we're 5.5, almost 6 years in the game with a channel, and in the space of like a year and a half, 2 years, we went from 10K approaching 50K. So we're still not even at the 100K mark. Now there are other channels who did it from 0 to 100 in 2 years, which I think is possible. We're just slow learners.
We took our time.
I think that's one great thing about YouTube is you can take your time, you pace it yourself. There's benefits and drawbacks to the speed and how much you put out, but no one is telling you do it at this point with your deadline. So you can grow it the way you want to grow it. Now that you have those years, those 5.5 to 6 years, what are some tips you would give to people who are wanting to start a YouTube channel in 2022?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is create an avatar of who your viewer is, and start to always think about, when you're creating a video, always think about them first.
Like what they want to see.
Like how you want to communicate things to them, like what will benefit them. Because really, I know there's the you in YouTube, but it's really about the audience, and it's about the viewer's experience. So what are you going to give to the viewer? Whether you're an entertainment channel or you're an education channel, what are you giving them, right? So it's not simply about just turning the camera on yourself, although that does help. So I would say start with your kind of channel avatar and think about what your value proposition to them is. So you have your target audience and your value proposition, and really that's where you start. And then there's a whole lot of other things that go along with that, but that's definitely where you start. The second thing would be to commit to a publishing schedule for a year. Like give yourself a year to grow the thing, because it's most likely not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be your 5th video, your 10th video. It's going to happen later on down the line. And I think something that I've seen with kind of creators that are getting into the Portugal space in particular is that they have small channels and they're starting out small and their videos are doing well, but they don't have like 100 videos behind them that are also like slowly collecting views that will help with the revenue. So for us, like if we have a video that flops in a week, it's okay because we still have like 200 videos behind it that are picking up views and helping with the revenue and keeping the revenue steady. I think young creators will get to their 20th video and they just don't have a mass behind them and they just get frustrated and they quit.
They get discouraged. That's what I would think is like consistency is really important. You just have to get through it because like Josh was saying is you most likely will not go viral in your first, 6 months or something. That's rare. So don't get discouraged about that. Just stay the course, keep learning as you go, making alterations to your channel, to your videos, and be consistent like with the schedule. Like you said, that's a good point.
Okay, thanks for that. And you now offer other things in tandem with your YouTube channel. I guess this has grown as you've grown as a channel. What other things do you offer now that you have more subscribers? What other things are you adding in like the notes and the links for each show?
Yeah. Well, I think the coolest thing that happened for us is when we were growing our content about Portugal, we had a guy reach out, a guy named Jeff. He reached out and he said, "How can I support you guys?" And we were like, "Wait, what do you mean? Like,
Support how?
you've hit the like and subscribe, man. That's awesome." And he's like, "No, I mean like financially, I want to support you guys. I think what you're doing is great." So he became like our #1 fan overnight. And he actually told us about Patreon. And I wasn't really clued in on Patreon. I had heard of it, but I didn't know really what it was about. And if you don't know what Patreon is, it's essentially a platform where creators can be supported. And it's not just video creators, but artists and other type of creatives can leverage their fan base to support them financially. And then they give back with a variety of things. So with him, we created our Patreon. He asked for it. We created it. He was our first patron. And then we just started every now and then to shout that out and let people know that we had a Patreon. So we have 160 patrons now, which gives us a revenue that's actually higher than what we earn from our YouTube ads. And that was pretty big. That was a pretty big shot in the arm that we had people that said, "You know what, beyond just watching your stuff, I want to actually like reach into my pocket and support you." Mm-hmm. It was massive, really massive for us.
Yeah.
And then other things.
Another thing too is when we were doing our D7 process, we have a playlist about how we did everything. You got us driving in the car in the US and we're like, okay, we're going here because we need to get this and we need to get this. So we kind of laid out everything with how we were doing it in video form. And we would get people writing us and be like, because I have a checklist and everything. And they're like, "Where's this checklist?" And I would give that. And they're like, "You need a course. You need like some sort of guide." And we're like, "Oh, but we have all these videos where you can see us do it." And they're like, "No, we'll pay for something that even like holds the hand a little more." It's like all the steps and all the recommendations and links and everything. So we thought, okay, like people are asking for this. Let's just go ahead and create it. And that's done really well too. So we have a DIY D7 course and it's filled with all of the things that we did, but I update it obviously as things change. Because, things will, change a little bit depending on your consulate and everything. And so that's got, affiliate links, recommendations for realtors or how to do this or how to get your NIF. And so as we also got here, we were able to meet a lot of people who are in these different industries. So we're able to work with them and say, okay, can we recommend you and funnel people your way because we have vetted you, we feel comfortable with you, we know you'll do a good job. And so we get to put all that stuff in there. And since the course, that DIY D7 course did well, another thing that ended up happening is when we would ask for feedback, people would be like, okay, I put all this effort into getting my visa. I got my visa. I showed up in Portugal. And now I'm like,
now what?
How do I set up my utilities? What's my SEF appointment going to be like? And we thought, oh, that's so true. We've helped you get the visa and you're so focused on getting the visa, selling stuff in my house and my car and everything. Then you get here and you're like, I didn't even think to look all that stuff up. So we recently launched a living in Portugal course or guide to help with all of those things. That's like when you get here, you're like, yeah, I don't even know where to start or how to do this. So then it's like, okay, now you do this. And so we have those courses, which have been fun to put together, get feedback from people, add to it, make changes, just to help people.
The main takeaway is listen to your audience. They're going to tell you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as you're growing your audience, listen to them. They will guide you.
Yeah.
for sure.
So we have that. We have, like swag. You can get like Expats Everywhere
Yeah.
t-shirts and
That's
stuff.
not a huge revenue
that's
source.
in the YouTube.
It's more fun.
Yeah, that's in the YouTube. They you can set that up with them directly.
Yeah.
They do drop shipping.
But yeah, like common with kind of influencers would be affiliate links and partnerships that you have. Every now and then we'll have a company reach out to us and want to do a sponsored video. We don't actively look for that stuff, at least not yet. But we really only work with companies that we feel like can add value to the audience. Because like the last thing I want to do is put out a video with a sponsored video and it upsets our audience. Like this has nothing to do with me. Why?
We get like a lot of crypto. People will write us or gaming.
Gaming's the worst.
Yeah, we get all, and we're like, nope, that's not our channel.
That's
like
not our
we're not
niche.
doing that.
No.
Yeah. So if it's something like real estate or anything like that in Portugal, then yeah, of course we're gonna put that stuff out because like Josh said, it adds value to our audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really good tips. Thank you. Also, I wanted to ask, so I was really curious because I started watching you before you focused in on Portugal. How has the viewership changed or has it grown when you focused on one country for a while now?
Yeah, this has been a point of contention because I think what's happened is a bit to our frustration is YouTube will start to pick up on viewing patterns of your audience and what you publish. And we lean so hard into Portugal for such a long period of time that trying to get out of doing stuff about Portugal is very difficult. And it's almost like we're ramming our head against the wall. We've polled our audience and we've asked them like, do you want Portugal only? Would you like a mix of a variety of countries? And the majority of people, not like over 50% majority, but the majority of the poll respondents said that they wanted a mix. They love our Portugal stuff, but they also want to explore other places, which is the heart of what our channel is about. Like we're expats everywhere. We want to show the world. But what we're not able to do is communicate that to YouTube. Like, hey guys, we're putting out valuable videos for people that aren't just interested in Portugal. So with the way the algorithm works, it wasn't distributing our videos widely enough because we've already niched down on Portugal. So long answer short, we're going to have our current channel be just Portugal stuff. We're creating a second channel that's going to talk more globally again because we like doing the broader content because our audience has changed, but we still have a lot of people who want both. So we're hoping the people that want both will subscribe to the new channel too.
That's super interesting because it seems like the opposite of when you start a website, like, oh, niche down, have that really particular niche, but it sounds like you get pigeonholed in YouTube.
It feels that way for sure. And I've talked to some other creators that are based in specific countries where they do specific country content and they feel the same way. I think that there's probably a way to get out of it, but I believe the road is very hard and long and frustrating.
I think it's hard when you're big too, like you become big in what you're doing and then you try to get out of it. So you see all these like frustrating numbers and things drop and things not do as well. So yeah, it also, I think, frustrates creators where you see some that not give up or quit, but like they get burnt out.
Yeah.
Because then
they're not doing what they want to do.
Yeah, they started off doing something, they get a little pigeonholed with YouTube, and then they know it's either a long road out or I just keep feeding the beast in a sense. And so then they get burnt out on that because yeah, it started off as stuff that they wanted to do and maybe turned into not what they thought.
Yep.
Yeah, I have noticed a trend of a lot of the big creators having those second or even third channels.
Yep. I was going to bring that up, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's why they do it. Yep.
Okay. So something to think about if you're, like you said, creating that avatar and you are starting to make your year calendar and down into the future.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right, I have a question from the audience. How do you manage to do all of this with a baby daughter?
We don't.
I do. No.
Is there a secret nanny off camera that I've never seen in the video?
I wish. I know. No, I mean, for us, Josh does a lot. He does a bulk of things. It kind of works too because I'm not really great with a camera, and so I can be on camera a lot. And then Josh is doing all that post editing stuff, and so I'm out with our daughter. So we just make it work. It is difficult sometimes when we have to shoot and it's just the two of us and we've got her like in a stroller. And we're like, okay, Sia, be quiet. We need to shoot something. And yeah, you know, so it's just like, yeah, here, drink some milk. Or we try to give her something so she can be quiet just for like a clip that we can do or something like that. But we have to do stuff like when she takes a nap or I work at night mainly, or only when she's napping, but we do a lot of the filming. That's just, you know, in the apartment type, that stuff filming that we have to do. We do it when she's napping. Yeah, I mean, she's, almost 2.5. We make it work, but we're getting ready to start her in September. It's really common here for kids to go to what's called a creche, which it's kind of like a preschool. And she's really social. We want her to learn Portuguese. So we're going to start her in that, which I think will free up a lot more time.
Yeah. You guys know the phrase or the saying, rise and grind. Like when you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, that's what it is. It's like respond to every comment, like do all the things to grow your audience and pull late hours and just grind. It'll pay off. And then once you kind of stabilize things and you have a bit of extra money, then maybe you hire somebody or contract something out and then figure out how to earn more revenue than what you're paying that person. So then maybe you can hire another person and then earn more money so you can so that snowball effect happens. So that's what we're trying to do. That's one of the reasons why we are leaning into this editor we have and trying to help her skills so that it'll take what it already has taken hours off of my plate that I can then go do other things to support the channel and the business.
Great tips. I have another question for you from the audience. What happens when you run out of content that you can provide? Like there's only so much knowledge you could pass on to your subscribers?
Well, I mean, I think it's obviously pretty niche specific, but that hasn't happened to us per se. I think that the thing that we struggle with, and this kind of goes back to the first question with time management and how we do all the things, this is where we failed. On YouTube, you really need to look at 3 buckets to fill with each video, and they can only be in one bucket at a time. So it's either the search and discovery videos, the community videos, or the sales videos. And oftentimes we don't actually think about what that content piece, what bucket it goes into. We just have an idea and we run with it. Whereas we should probably be a little more intentional about, okay, let's think about how many videos have we done that have been community based in a row. We need to now do one that's search and discovery so that we can grow our audience and then bring them into those community videos. And then, we need to slide in a sales video so that we can actually earn some income, because the YouTube ad money is not great, so we need to think about, okay, when can we name drop the fact that we have a course or one of our sponsored videos or whatever. So yeah, the answer would be,
I mean, for us, I don't think we ever actually run out of ideas. We're always thinking of ideas. We have a document. When an idea pops into our heads, we put it in there. And it's just actually that coming to fruition that ends up being harder for us. Because like we were saying before too, it's all this pre-planning that you have to do. And with the craziness of having a kid, that really limits how much I can work on or how much like mental space I have. Because even if Josh is like working at the apartment and I'm running around with her, he asks me a question. I'm like, I can't think about that right now because I have to really process it and like for it to be good ideas or good, opinions or whatever. I just have to really process it, but I'm just running around with her. So that is where the balance is hard. So we do feel like once she gets going in her little preschool and we have a little more time, it'd be a little more structure, which I think is really good for Josh. He really likes that structure. I can kind of do, whatever, but the more structure I think will be helpful for us to better pre-plan. But for us, I think, we just there's lots of ideas, lots of things you could do. And people write asking for certain things too. And sometimes people will write and it's like, I think a small amount of people are actually interested in that. But people do give suggestions.
Let me give like a more finite example so maybe the audience can understand this a bit better. So imagine that we haven't done a video on the city/towns of Aveiro or Viana do Castelo.
Braga?
No, we did do a video on Braga.
Oh, well, we did.
So it's like you have these videos that are out there to do. We can go to these cities, we can shoot them, but how many people are actually interested in that location? Versus what are the top 10 cities to live in Porto in 2022? Portugal, excuse me, in 2022. So like which video is going to perform better, right? One is a community video, the other is a search and discovery video. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hopefully to all my
Makes
people out there.
sense.
Yeah.
Well,
So those
I
are
want to.
questions that you have to ask.
Yeah, and they're really important questions, like you said. I think also that getting that content calendar is a really good tool.
Yeah. We should.
Checking it. Seeing well, I want to end here on a positive note for YouTube. What are the benefits you have had from starting this YouTube channel as it's grown?
Time freedom massively. And well, a lot of our friends, honestly, in Portugal have come from the YouTube channel. They've been viewers that have reached out, and we've, you know, met up with them and then been like, hey, you're really cool, we should hang out again. And we have, and they've become really close friends here. That's what I would say.
Yep. I think probably the biggest thing for me is, since we do have a young daughter, I actually get to be engaged in her life. You know, I'm there all the time. If I want to take her to the zoo during the day, I take
Way
her
to
the
steal
zoo.
the beautiful answer.
Well, it's the truth.
What
It's
she
the
said.
biggest
What
thing.
she said.
It's like well, like you said, flexibility of time. You know, for one, I'm not a morning person. Our daughter sleeps well, so you know, I never have to get up at 6 or 7 a.m. anymore to go to work, which is great. You know, so I make my own hours in that sense. I get to work when I want to work. I get to spend time with her when she's awake and she's moving around. And I think that's really important. And it's fun. It's fun for me as well to be able to take her to things like the aquarium or the zoo just in the middle of the day. So just having that luxury has been the best thing for me. I guess not for you. No kidding.
Well, it has been a benefit for us, especially someone like me who lives in Portugal, to learn so much from you guys, but also see all these places around the world from expats everywhere. So thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you very much.
feel like I got to talk to like some of my Portuguese idols here. So
Come on now.
So
thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And guys, we're going to be back again next week at the same time, 5 p.m. UK time. We're going to interview Darlin Lopez, who is another digital nomad and a marketing strategist. So be sure to come back next week. Thank you, Josh and Kalie. Have a great week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.